Working 35 years as an all-volunteer force. Welcome to Army Newswatch. I'm Specialist Ashley Torres. We'll have that story and more, but first, here's a look at what's going on around the Army. President Bush declared a state of emergency in California as fires burn in the northern part of the state. California National Guard members continue supporting the efforts to douse the flames. The Guard has provided aircraft that have already dropped 400,000 gallons of water.
It's just nice to lend a hand. You know, we enjoy it. It's a shame that something like this has to happen for us to lend a hand. But you know, we're real busy every year during the fire season.
More than 570 square acres have burned. Officials say it could take months to put the fires out. As floodwaters recede in the Midwest, the repairs will soon begin. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is assessing damage to levees as part of its rehabilitation and inspection program. The Corps has responsibility for approximately 2,000 levees nationwide, but most levees in Iowa belong to the state. According to the National Wildlife Federation, Iowa residents will see more severe flooding every few years due to rain patterns altered by climate change. The Federation said major storms expected every 20 years could now occur every 4 to 6 years. Military working dogs and their handlers form the first line of defense for coalition troops in Iraq. The K-9 teams seek out explosives, narcotics, and weapons caches. Dogs and their handlers fight terrorism as a single unit and share a special bond. But while they're battle buddies and teammates, they're not equals. Under Army regulations, the dog is always one rank higher than its handler. The war dogs work with one handler as long as a soldier is at a duty station. Football fans at Camp Black Horse, Afghanistan scored a touchdown. San Francisco 49ers head coach Mike Nolan, former defensive back Eric Davis, and sports byline talk show host Ron Barr dropped in for a visit to support the troops. Nolan stressed the importance of teamwork for his football players and said he enjoyed seeing the teamwork among soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines.
It's been quite an education for me, both just seeing the terrain and everything around here, but most importantly, just you guys and seeing how much camaraderie and how much, you know, just caring about one another there is. I've really enjoyed that.
The visit ended with a live broadcast from Camp Eggers. Soldiers say they appreciated the visit and will remember it forever. A fishing pole and the gentle rocking of a boat helped rejuvenate the mind, body, and soul of some wounded warriors. The injured troops spent some time on Lake Lanier with more than a dozen Atlanta Falcons football players. The men sailed across the lake in search of striper. The Falcons teammates, including Tom McClure, Chris Redman, and Brian Finneran, learned about the veterans and shared some of their tales from the gridiron. Soldiers say the fishing trip made them feel like they were in the NFL for a day. Well, it's time to give a big Army hooah to the stations that bring Army Newswatch to you, and especially PTN, channels 30, 31, and 16 in Plano, Texas, and channels 11 and 22 throughout Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Thanks for watching. Don't go away. Soldiers swing for the green at the AT&T National. Plus, the latest in Army medical news. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Today's adventure takes us to the Army's third oldest installation. It was designated by President Washington in 1797 as Military Reservation Number 5. Do you know where we are? This post has a violent history. The British destroyed the fort during the War of 1812. The fort also hosted the trial of the conspirators in our nation's first presidential assassination. I'll be back with the answer in a moment.
What can I buy with 2 rectangles?
A bus ride.
You're right. Good job, honey.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Did you figure it out? It's Fort McNair in Washington, D.C. The British destroyed the original fort during the War of 1812 when they accidentally blew up a hidden cache of gunpowder. The conspirators in Abraham Lincoln's assassination were imprisoned, tried, and executed here. The War College at Fort McNair is a National Historic Landmark. That wraps up this trip. See you next time for another adventure.
Welcome back. The environment has been on the Army's radar for about 2 decades. Still, there are some who believe the environment and soldiers are at odds, but as James Williams reports, they're actually mutual benefactors.
The Joint Multinational Readiness Center at Hohenfels, Germany, provides realistic training for NATO countries. As military challenges evolve around the globe, training must adapt to remain effective. Here at Hohenfels, the environmental staff works with soldiers on various construction projects designed to enhance training. They're building a 5-meter-high berm next to a replication of Sadr City. This will cut down on the noise from weapons and provide a visual barrier between soldiers and their neighbors.
Building this berm is a good part of environment control because it's stopping the noise barrier. It's being a noise barrier and almost an environmental barrier. Once they put the trees and stuff, it'll make it look more natural here too.
The nearby Makaraki village is just one training aid for soldiers heading to the Middle East. This improvised explosive device lane replicates the type of highway soldiers encounter in Iraq. Soldiers who have already completed a tour of duty in Iraq have helped design this mock highway. It includes water runoff control and possible hiding places for explosives like overpasses, rock piles, and small buildings. Some people still view training and the environment as a dichotomy, now and forever contradictory parts. But here in Southeast Germany, they have proven how much soldiers and the environment can benefit from each other. James Williams, Hohenfels, Germany.
Fred Couples, KJ Choi, Rocco Mediate. These are just a few big-name golfers who attended the 2008 AT&T National in Bethesda, Maryland. But on day one, the armed forces were the center of attention. Dave Anarino caught up with the soldier as he stepped up to the green.
You can smell the clean air, the beautiful trees. I love the huge open fairways. It's a beautiful golf course here.
Are you having fun, Michael?
I love the big congressional. Wow. Good. Sir, Mr. Vegas, my pleasure to be your caddy for this hole. I'm just PFC. I used to manage actors in LA and at 39 joined the United States military. We just got back from Fort AP Hill where we were down, shooting a lot of weapons.
Falling at speeds of over 120 miles an hour, the Screaming Eagle! From all of us at Tiger, we want to wish the men and women who serve our country a great applause from us, so thank you very much.
What do we have? They asked me what I thought. What are you shooting with the 6 today? And they discussed that and then quickly changed it to a 5. People care again. People all of a sudden feel a connection to the work and efforts that soldiers make.
I don't know whether any of us Americans can put it into the right words to say thank you for their service. But certainly an old baseball player can shake hands a little bit, take a picture, and talk a little baseball with him, but you can't say thank you enough.
Where are you from in Colombia?
I'm from Medellin.
Oh, you are? I know that whatever I'm doing it for my country.
Fred Couples is getting ready to go.
I'm doing it so that there's some other kid who's 18-year-old, and if he's having a bad day, he looks over and sits there and goes, wow, Penn's 41 now, and he's running. I think I'm actually going to, my friends are back there, I'm going to probably head up. Yeah, I'm a one-hole wonder. It's not a decade to be a spectator, it's a decade to be a participant. Mr. Chagas, I think I'm going to let you go on with your day. Actions speak so much louder than praise, and the best praise I could give to a soldier defending our country was to stand beside him.
3, 2, 1.
I just couldn't think of a better way to honor them, I'm just PFC.
A summer-long sports rehabilitation program kicks off for severely wounded service members. Disabled Sports USA and the Wounded Warrior Project have teamed up for a series of more than 35 Learn To clinics. Some of the activities include cycling, golf, kayaking, scuba diving, and rock climbing. The summer programs are free for severely wounded service members and their families. Organizers say the summer programs will show wounded warriors they can continue to live active lives with their new physical challenges. For more information, visit dsusa.org. The Army's 35 Warrior Transition Units were created specifically for the needs of injured soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, but their role has drastically expanded. Our medical editor, Dr. Paul Little, joins us today. Sir?
Yeah, you know, Ashley, only 1/3 of those soldiers are actually coming from Iraq. The other 2/3 are soldiers who may have been in theater but are now back in the United States, or those who got hurt while they were here in CONUS. And the WTUs are ramping up to handle the load. Take a look.
Do I have an appointment this morning?
Well, it's been 15 months now since the Army set up Warrior Transition Units to manage the care of wounded soldiers. Problem is, the program is a victim of its own success. Over 12,000 soldiers are now being treated, and that's caused shortages in cadre and professional staff.
We've got squad leaders and we have platoon sergeants that are actually already on the installation that may be in the rear detachment that we can move over immediately to fill those positions.
And those positions involve a lot more than normal duty.
The squad leader's job to take care of these wounded warriors is not only day-to-day leadership, but it's above and beyond that. Besides the CTTs and physical appointment, is the family requirement.
So WTU cadre can expect special duty pay of $375 per month.
We also look at we're looking at the medical evaluation board and the physical evaluation board process. What can we do to better ensure that our soldiers are facilitated through that process in an efficient manner, but still all their rights are protected in that process?
1, 2, 3.
In other medical news, Defense Department officials broke ground for the new Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. The 350-bed facility will be built on the campus of the National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. The project is a part of the 2005 Base Realignment and Closure Act to relocate Walter Reed from Washington, D.C. to Maryland. The almost $1 billion medical center will provide tertiary, subspecialty, and complex medical services to wounded warriors. It's expected to be completed in September 2011. And that's a wrap-up of the latest medical news.
Still to come, students show off their science projects to solve real-world problems and working to preserve endangered species and a unique ecosystem in Florida. More of the stories that make America's Army are up next.
This is fine. Thanks.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Do you know that stroke targets by color? If you're African American, you're twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans. Join the power to end stroke at strokeassociation.org.
Welcome back. From the involuntary draft once used to fill the ranks to the hundreds who willingly serve our country today, the Army marks 35 years of an all-volunteer force. Jeannie Ryan reports.
Do solemnly swear.
More than 24 soldiers and new recruits raised their right hands at the Pentagon, pledging to serve their country. These enlistments and re-enlistments honored all the men and women who have voluntarily stepped forward to answer the call to duty since the draft ended in July 1973.
Because it's building my experience so I can get to be what I want to be.
I plan on doing 20 to maybe even 30 years. I like doing it. It's basically what I like doing.
I love serving my country. I like what I do. I love what I do, and I can't see myself doing anything else.
The concept for the all-volunteer force was born as U.S. troops withdrew from South Vietnam in 1969. Amid public concern with the draft, President Richard Nixon called for an end to the draft and instructed Army Chief of Staff General William Westmoreland to move toward a volunteer force.
I lived this, and I remember as a lieutenant wondering where the heck we were going. And if you'd asked Lieutenant Casey 38 years ago if I thought this was going to turn out the way it did, I wouldn't have been too sure. But I lived this, and I watched our Army and our leaders and our soldiers grow into the most professional force in the world.
Leadership says the volunteer force is an Army success story because of the troops who willingly serve our country.
Every year, number of men and women who join the Army about the same size as the United States Marine Corps. And here we are 6 years into war. It says a great deal about the courage and the integrity and the commitment and the patriotism of the young people today.
Even with the ongoing operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, leaders say the Army is attracting quality recruits to become a part of the best fighting force. Jeannie Ryan, Washington.
All around the globe, soldiers marked the anniversary by signing on for another tour of duty. The biggest re-enlistment ceremony brought more than 1,200 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines together in Baghdad on the 4th of July. General David Petraeus, commanding general of the multinational force Iraq, re-enlisted the military personnel at the Al-Fa Palace on Camp Victory.
I'm truly honored. I've never been re-enlisted by a four-star general, and today has really made my career. I've been in for 11 years, and this has really made my day.
Do solemnly swear.
The re-enlistment ceremony was the largest since the all-volunteer force began in 1973. The Army is always looking for good men and women to fill the ranks. Gail McCabe spoke with the Deputy Commanding General of the Army's Training and Doctrine Command, who says recruiting quality is as much an issue as quantity.
This is a national security issue that we need to create an awareness of and wake up, because the fact is right now 7 out of 10 Americans walking on our streets between the ages of 17 and 24 cannot get into our United States Army without a type of waiver. And it may either be based on a medical condition, a physical inability, meaning they can't pass a PT test, or obesity, or they don't have, they've got a stain in a moral sense where they've had a brush with the law. And so we have to ask ourselves, how do we influence that? You know, how do we start to influence our educators, the whole system, about instilling values of personal fitness and well-being, getting kids to start and finish what they start. The Army recruits 80,000 soldiers a year. It is true that we probably brought in twice as many this year as last year that had a felony conviction. But I got to tell you, these days our pain threshold in a legal sense is a little bit higher than it used to be.
Okay, so how do you fix it?
We have a very deliberate process where these aspiring soldiers have to go through at least 10 checks, culminating with the last one being a general officer who signs his or her name on a paper, says, based upon all the things I see here, I'm willing to take this risk. And when you stop and think about it, the fact of the matter is this is a state of what's on our streets. And I would pose this question to you: where would you rather them be? Would you rather them stay on that street, or would you rather them come into the service and be under the watchful arm of one of our non-commissioned officers, a trained professional, instilling confidence and values and discipline? I think I know what your answer is. I know what mine is.
There are those who would say that perhaps it's not the Army's place to be trying to fix America's youth.
I think the Army has a part of it. It's very hard to accomplish in 10 weeks that which has not been accomplished in 18 years. It goes back to how we teach our kids and the programs we put them through.
So how do you sum it all up?
We're looking at things like the Army Preparatory School, where we could take these young Americans and put them in a program that would be very focused, and we get them to a level where they can in fact come in the Army and not require that waiver. So again, great programs, but this is a wake-up call.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has joined forces with the South Florida Water Management District to restore an ecosystem that covers 9,000 square miles. Mary Cochran reports on a project that impacts a multitude of endangered species as well as mankind.
On the edge of the Kissimmee River,
well, would you like to hear the day I almost married the alligator?
Leroy tells tall tales.
She was kind of duck-legged and long-nosed, but what the hell. in the middle of the swamp. Ain't nobody gonna know it.
From the age of 4, he fished his favorites
Armored cats, garfish, mudfish,
in this river.
damn few catfish.
I do know that they've seen an increasing number of the game fish that you would expect to see in a river system like this.
A system that the Corps of Engineers is changing.
The canal used to be from this point all the way up to this point.
That channel is being backfilled and returned to a natural, meandering state.
And you get about 14 miles of restored river channel out of that.
This rehydrates a huge marshland.
As this is basically the headwaters of the Everglades.
It also provides habitat for 300 species that suffered from the channelization.
We lost about 92% of the wading birds.
Now they're returning.
We have been astounded by the results we're getting out there. I know every scientist that's been out there, they're just absolutely astounded by the progress, by the amount of wildlife that's come back, and the recognition that we're only halfway done.
When complete, 43 miles of river ecosystem will be restored for species and people
That's the only way to go.
along the Kissimmee River. Mary Cochran, Florida.
They're the science, math, and technology leaders of tomorrow. Students in grades 6 through 9 converged in Washington, D.C. for the National eCybermission competition to show the world how to use science to solve problems. Crystal Park reports.
Only the cream of the crop was left standing at the 2008 eCybermission competition in Washington, D.C. 16 teams from all over the nation fought for their spot in the finals.
Lots of people are buying CFLs.
In its 6th year, the Army-sponsored competition requires students to identify a problem in their community and use scientific methods to propose a solution.
So the reason for doing eCybermission is to give those middle school students a chance to engage in the real-world application of science, math, engineering, and technology.
The Aqueducts, a 9th grade team from San Jose, California, presented efficient ways to clean up oil spills. It took them 3 years to get to the finals, but this experience is one they wouldn't trade in.
And we just are really thankful towards eCybermission and the Army for sponsoring it because it was such a great opportunity for us all these 3 years, and we really enjoyed it.
Parents are grateful for a program that encourages children to expand their mind.
You know, having this opportunity has been very good for my child as well as his team members, and I can see that every team out here is very passionate about what they're doing, and it's great to see the youth of America, you know, in such a positive role.
The top prize is $5,000 savings bonds for each team member, but it's not the money that motivates these kids. It's their passion for their work. Crystal Park, Washington.
Coming up, 60 years after the largest military aviation mission in history, veterans of the Berlin Airlift gather to relive the memories. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
What is your problem, man?
You're welcome.
What the heck is wrong with you?
What do you mean?
Don't give me that. All right. What's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school. I just acted as fast as I could.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah. Who's going to pay for my car?
I guess I could.
Do you even have a real job?
Yes.
Do you have insurance?
I saw the whole thing. Call me.
Do you have a problem with your friends driving recklessly? With your friends endangering your life? I'm here to tell you that reckless driving is the #1 cause of teenage deaths. But with new and improved Slow Down, you don't have to die.
He's right. We should slow down.
In the real world, there is no spokesperson to prevent reckless driving. There's only you. Speak up.
Kim, pay attention.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. It takes a man to be a dad.
Welcome back. This month marks the 60th anniversary of the Berlin Airlift, the largest aviation mission in history. Staff Sergeant Jason David reports from Berlin, where veterans of the airlift gathered to share their experiences.
The city of Berlin and its rescue from the Soviet Empire by Allied forces kicked off with Operation Vittles. Its mission was to supply roughly 1,500 tons worth of goods daily to keep more than 2 million people alive. This is where the Berlin Airlift started.
This is not just an aspect of history in the history books, but it's flesh and blood, human beings.
This month marks the 60th anniversary of the Berlin Airlift, and during this time, veterans are flying in from all over to reflect and share their experiences of the historic event.
It's a great thing, actually, that at the time we didn't think they would have much of it. We had a job to do, and we got it done.
In the midst of the airlift, one man, after offering some children the 2 sticks of Wrigley's gum he had in his pocket, decided it'd be a great idea to deliver candy to the children of Berlin by dropping it out of his plane. These candy drops would end up being known as Operation Little Vittles.
In 1948, I got a letter from a little girl in Berlin, 7 years old. She says, "You're causing us a terrible problem. You're scaring our chickens. They come right over our apartment house, plane after plane. They run in the chicken coop, losing their feathers. They quit laying their eggs." And then the last paragraph, she says, "When you see the white chickens, drop it there. I don't care if it scares you."
Colonel Halverson ended up missing her house, so he sent her candy in the mail. Years later, he visited that little girl, and when he reached her house,
knocked on the door, down came a family, and took me upstairs, said, "Read this letter." And Mercedes pulled out the letter and said, "Read it." Said, "Mercedes, I can't find your white chickens. I hope this is okay." She says, "Step over here 5 steps, you silly pilot. I'll show you where the chickens were."
Yes, it's a real deep friendship from heart to heart.
the airlift ended on September 30th, 1949, 15 months after it started. In total, the U.S. and British airlifted over 2.3 million tons of goods from 277,569 flights to Berlin. This demonstration of air power helped deter Soviet expansion while giving the people of Berlin the freedom that they now enjoy today.
That does it for this edition of Army Newswatch. Join us again next time for the stories that make America's Army.